Welcome back to Night Moves. I am Greg Keller, and joining me as always is Mark Padilla and our special guest, Emmanuel Villalpando, right?
Got it.
Okay. Sorry. So in this episode, we're talking about redemptive suffering, and we're also talking about Emmanuel's vocation at the moment in assisting the young adults in their Catholic faith and helping them stay true to that faith, because I think it's very important. Young Catholics are very vulnerable during this time. They've finished their confirmation and they really don't have much if they're not going to a Catholic university, and even sometimes when they are going to a Catholic university, there's not a lot of reinforcement in their faith. If they didn't have a rock solid foundation to start with, I think once they've made their confirmation, there's not much else. And a lot of times they say I'm done. I finished learning about the Catholic faith and I know everything. I've been confirmed. I'm good to go. That's not true, but that's what a lot of people believe. And then, you go off to college and you're led astray. You're given a lot of false information. So I think it's very important, this ministry that you have in helping young Catholics stay true to the faith. And, it's building communities like that help them stay strong in their faith. And, we always talk about a community helping you remain accountable for your good and your bad actions. And, you want to know when you've done something wrong and get you back on track. And I think part of that too, having that community helps with, times when you're suffering. We're talking about redemptive suffering, and when you're suffering, and suffering comes in all different forms. It could be, a breakup and you're heartbroken. That's suffering. Or, unrequited love. You really like a girl or a guy, and it doesn't work out, right? They don't like you. So that's a bit of suffering, and it's how you focus that suffering. And I know you mentioned that you went through these cycles where you would go on retreat, you're on fire, and you would go off and you go to this ministry, and then you'd sort of fade off. And, if that ministry is not feeding you and helping you not necessarily maintain the high that you got off of the retreat, but helping you at least maintain some level of your faith, it's not working. So, what you're doing and giving people opportunities to look for this and find other communities is very important. And I think it's also important, as Knights of Columbus, I think that's, there's a general misnomer that Knights are just a bunch of old guys. Yeah, we are a bunch of old guys, but it's old, faithful Catholics, and we want to attract the youth, but we're not sure how to do it. And I think we always try to, as I get older, I think, well, what do the young kids like? And it's like, they like the same things I did when I was that age. And they just want to grow in their faith. So we need to make sure that we're providing them that opportunity to grow in their faith. And so your ministry is a good step in that direction.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so with regard, do you guys do anything? I know that you're sort of identifying all the different activities, but are there, meetings that you guys have where you come together and you discuss the problems of the day? Or are you guys doing that, or is that just related to the different groups that you're pointing out?
So it's very important that the majority of the material that gets submitted, make sure that material is genuinely Catholic.
Sure.
That's our main adjustment. One very important thing, Mark and Greg, is that as much as we would like to be able to, not just have certain pockets of Los Angeles, we would love to cover all of Southern California.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that means that through the organization, we can put together different ways of attracting young adults, or finalizing the kind of different projects that we need to do having volunteers and what I like to term boots on the ground
Right.
to be able to reach that one parish that does not have an active young adult ministry or does not have an active council. And there is a young adult there,
Right.
whether it be man or woman, who's just waiting for that call saying, I pray, Lord, that, and I'm not saying that we're here to do anything else that the Holy Spirit is meant to do. We're just simply, again, just sending out that invitation. And by simply visiting the parish, you get to meet a young adult who, whether they were, debating on an abortion or needed that healing, or their family is falling apart, or some type of drug addiction is happening in their family or within themselves.
Right.
In that sense, I can sense where, I got the opportunity to meet so many different young adult ministries, but the ones that really matter, not to me personally, and of course, they do matter, but in my eyes, what I see is that young adult that hasn't yet gotten that invitation,
Right.
has not had a chance to discern their vocation, or that young adult that is deciding whether to, remain in the faith or not. And so these are the types of topics that we have in these meetings
Okay.
of ours. And we want to make sure that we are spreading the word as much as possible. If there is a parish that we have not heard of, or that someone just is trying to connect us to, we will go and visit. We will hand out information. We will attend young adult ministry events and help them publicize their information as well, because it's important that it's not just an event flyer, but that physical presence of that being integrated with them as brothers and sisters in Christ that really make all the difference. So,
absolutely. Yeah, the personal touch is very important. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So ideally, what you'd like to have is, like you said, boots on the ground is like a representative at every parish. Well, you're in Orange County, but throughout Southern California, that will say, hey, this is the event we've got going on. It comes to Omnia Catholic, and then what do? You put it on your website and you get it out. Not so much website, because you're more social media. You're the Facebook and Twitter, and so it's more of a interactive rather than come to a static place like a website, right? Is that the way that works?
Well, the thing is, Mark, we have a website right now as a landing page, but in the next few months, bringing together so many different young adults that, for me, I wasn't really taught how to code, and I had to learn it myself. But nowadays in high schools, everybody's lining up to learn how to be able to do this on a regular basis. So you can see a 6-year-old building code in the background. And so for me personally, it's important that the website have that type of integration, in the sense where we are attracting those young adults that want to use certain skills. And whether they're in the faith or not, Mark and Greg, I think it's super important that, and definitely needs to be, the mission behind Omni Catholic, that we keep attracting these young adults that are actually looking to use and utilize the skills, whether they are developing them or have a master's degree and trying to figure out where their career is going, and orient them in the sense where the personal encounter comes first, then comes a mission behind what God is calling you to align with. And by the grace of God, there are more young adults that are coming forward, that are using technological skills to be able to evangelize using digital platforms.
Right.
And so the website that we'll be launching will be coming soon. And with it, we will be finding different ways to use the internet, such as Google, Firefox, and so on, to be able to attract young adults at the highest level that we possibly can, not just in Southern California, but also in other countries, such as we have Omnia Catholic Mexico. We are interested in doing Omnia Catholic Philippines and Omnia Catholic New York. Overall, though, Greg and Mark, our main goal is to make sure that young adults have a platform where they can either make friends, whether that's what they're interested in doing, or just getting to know other young adult Catholics, because as my story that I've shared so far, it has mainly been for that lack of invitation to a certain extent.
Hmm.
And whether it was by the grace of God that He instilled this in me and told me, Manuel, will you help me?
Right.
Well, can we do something together? And speaking very briefly on redemptive suffering, even in my own personal background, one of the reasons why I just didn't get close to the church, and I just want to share this real quick, was because it kind of felt like, and I feel like a lot of young adults feel this. You do your confirmation too, and after you're finished, well, the expectation is that, well, you can come back to the faith once you decide or discern on a marriage, and that university and college life does take over. But most importantly, is during those years that we walk away, and I'm not saying everybody does, I'm saying
Sure.
certain people. With that being said, the ones that do walk away and they were Catholic, I feel like they're trying to, it's like playing poker against God.
Right.
And it's like, okay, Lord, I am holding the best hand here. And all I need you to do is to tell me what hand I'm holding and I will serve you better.
Right.
And so to me personally, when I used to personally say that myself, I then realized that it doesn't matter what cards I was holding because they were built by God.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I remember in this vision, the actual cards disintegrated. They just left. And then all of a sudden, I was just left with my hand. And then my hand is also God's.
Right.
And so I feel like we have more excuses than motivation.
Sure.
And being able to readjust our form of thinking and being able to utilize it in the sense where you're putting faith in action, and we're not called to be comfortable. We're not called to tell people, or excuse me, to focus on our own needs, but the needs of our community.
Right.
And of course, that belief in suffering and union with Jesus Christ should always come first, and offer up that suffering. I ask anybody who comes into the faith to be strong in your faith as much as you possibly can. And that's
Yeah.
my own sufferings as well.
That's very good. That's very good. Yeah, and we should be taking that. Whatever little trials we go through the day. Even if it's, sitting in traffic. I hate traffic, but I live in LA, so it's a daily part of life, and that's part of my suffering. And I always try to promote going to God with that. So.